Uchenna Nwosu has officially signed an extension with the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to be calling him Chenna for the purpose of this video and me not fumbling names. Let's get to why this is important for our Seattle Seahawks. This is a 3-year extension worth up to $59 million. There is $32 million guaranteed in this deal, and at first glance, you might think that this is a little bit of a overpay. You might think this is a bigger contract than you would expect, but let's just be realistic for a few moments. When we're looking at a situation of having edge rushers in this league, and now I know he could be considered an outside linebacker by the depth chart. He is an outside linebacker in general, but he is an edge rusher is the main purpose for us here. And as an edge rusher, a guy who's 26 years old, who's young and is only ascending in his career, having a $59 million contract is not something that is outrageous in this version of the NFL, the way that contracts are given out in this day and age in the NFL. And I want to go through not only what this means for the Seahawks defense and where their full depth chart is at, but I also just want to talk about what this means for him, how he's grown season to season, and what can we expect moving forward. Now, I'm going to go through a couple different things to look at here. Obviously, let's just start with the basics, the things that I tweeted out, as you can see right here. He's coming off a career-high sack year. He's 26 years old, played all 17 games, 9.5 sacks, 42 tackles. Those are the solo tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and he had 12 tackles for loss. I believe it was 66 tackles in total for him on the season combined. 42 was solo, 24 assisted. Now let's go through the year-to-year type of stuff. He started at 22 years old in 2018 on the Chargers. He played there for his first 4 seasons. And in his final season so far, which was this last year with the Seahawks, 26 years old, he played all 17 games, and he played better than any season he played with the Chargers. Let's just go with game started. He went from 15 to 17. He had an interception one year randomly, but that just happens sometimes. He had 3 forced fumbles and 4 pass deflections, were both his career highs. He had 2 fumble recoveries compared to 1 his entire career. And then let's go through the combined tackle, solo tackle, assisted tackle. He's gone every single year. He's ascended from 28 to 31 to 33 to 40 to 66 tackles. He went from 18 to 23 to 20 to 24 to 42 solo tackles. That's a huge jump there. We're talking pretty much double the amount of solo tackles than he's ever had. Assisted tackles are also going up. And then tackle for loss and quarterback hits is where it's important because, like I said, we're using him as an edge rusher here. And the purpose of having a guy and paying a guy $59 million for 3 years is to make sure that he can get to the quarterback. He had tackles for loss. He went from, 3, 5, 5, 8, and then 12. And then quarterback hits, he went from 10, 7, 11, 17 to 26. So every single year he's gotten better. Obviously, the Seahawks figured out how to utilize him. And on top of it all, he went from being a guy that maybe has a handful of tackles for loss to having 12 last year. He went from a guy that had 4 or 5 sacks to a guy that had 9.5, almost double-digit sacks. And he went from 10, 11 QB hits to 26 QB hits. And if this just gets even a little bit better, think about what the ceiling can be here with this defense and with him in general. But if he can up that to 12 sacks, to 75, 80 tackles with 30 QB hits, another 5 or 6 tackles for loss, we're not going to be looking at all at a situation where you would consider it a bad signing. It would be clearly considered a high quality signing. So this is where it gets exciting. And I think it's even more exciting that they figured this out a day or two before training camp. They wanted to lock this up, not have any questions to who's going to be there, who's signed, who's not signed. I don't think they wanted to deal with any of that drama. We have a young core with some veterans, obviously. We obviously have the Quandre Diggs, the Jaron Reeds, the Bobby Wagners, the Jamal Adams on the team. But we have a very young core in other places on the team with, guys that would be other edge rushers on the team or outside defensive ends like Mike Morris, who just came in the draft. You have young corners in Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. There's a lot of pieces that we are, bringing in together, and they wanted to make it clear and make it certain that the Seahawks are not only building for now, and they have, some of their veterans, like bringing back Bobby Wagner was a now move, but also to help these young guys get even better on the defense in the future. And I think this is just a sign that the Seahawks believe in a lot of the pieces they have right now. They want to keep building for this future, lock some guys up, because they're probably expecting what I just said, some couple more combined tackles, maybe a sack or two more. All of a sudden, if you become a 12, 11, maybe even 13 sack guy a year, you're going to get paid maybe even more. So I think locking him up was smart. Potential, there's higher upside, higher ceiling potential, and maybe lock up a guy that is working decent in your system before he becomes too expensive. Outside of that, what I wanted to look at is a couple of the PFF numbers here. So I like to kind of go see where he ranked for qualified edge rushers. Like I told you, outside linebackers, what NFL.com has him signed as or listed as. I think Football Reference and ESPN have him at that. PFF has him as ED, edge rusher, because that's really what he's been for us. We're looking at season stats, but it's edge rushers with at least 20% of the league's highest volume are ranked. So you have to play. We're not talking about, we're talking about guys with high volume on the field. He had 41 solo tackles according to PFF, even though every other place on the entire internet says 42. Not sure why, but regardless, that puts him at 6th. He's qualified for the 6th most out of those edge rushers that are qualified. His 15 assisted tackles is tied for 10th. His 10 sacks, or 9.5, were tied for 16th. Let's remember that. Tied for 16th. We're talking about top 20 in sacks. That's a big deal for edge rushers. And 3 forced fumbles is tied for 7th. So overall grade, a 72.6 on PFF. And when you read it like that, 26 years old, his first season with the Seahawks, he became a guy that was top 10 in tackles for edge rushers, top 10 in assisted tackles for edge rushers, top 20 or top 16 if you really want to say it, but top 20 in sacks, top 10 in forced fumbles. That's a great value signing at 3 years, $20 million a year pretty much. And a lot of it is, I feel like the signing bonuses and the guaranteed money is a lot bigger for cap purposes, whatever you want to call it. That's a good number. And now the defense is honestly, I think, better than we're probably a lot of people would expect it to be. I know that the Seahawks defense hasn't been the same defense it's been all along, but my last big thing to see here, or my last talking point here, I guess, is with this base 3-4-D, here's what we have as a depth chart. Currently, I'm just going off what the internet says. Like, it's pretty accurate. If you think, when I look at it, it's pretty accurate to what I think the depth chart will come out. But you never know how things change in camp. But as of right now, left defensive end, you have Draymond Jones, who was a great pickup from the Broncos. Mike Morris is second, who could be a young sleeper stud coming out of Michigan that we got in the draft. Nose tackle is Brian Monet, Cameron Young right there, who we also got from the draft. Jaron Reed at the right defensive end with Miles Adams as the second string. You have Darrell Taylor and Derek Hall, Jordan Brooks and Devin Bush. Jordan Brooks depends on injury. Bobby Wagner. You have Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe. Corners, Devin Witherspoon and Mike Jackson, Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant. And then on the safety side, you have Jamal Adams with Jarek Reed behind him and Quandre Diggs with Julian Love. That is a better defense than what we had last year. It's not even comparable or not even close with just some of the pickups of Julian Love, Devin Witherspoon in the draft, Draymond Jones, bringing back Bobby Wagner. Even if one of the guys like a Mike Morris or Cameron Young ends up being, or Derek Hall ends up being productive, this defense is far beyond better than what it was last year. And then we already know what's up with the offense, and we'll talk about it another day. But Uchenna Nwosu, I hope I'm saying it right. It's always hard. Great signing, great value. I don't think there's anything to complain about, and it's time to win some football games, baby. Seahawks, another good move. I'm proud. Peace.